Can we go with Chris?
Mr. Ewing, why did you decide to run for mayor now?
After watching everything that's happened across this country, with all of the divisiveness, I remembered my time at the Omaha Police Department, where I ran toward the issues. And I felt like I had to do that at this time as well. To be quite honest, I could very easily sit back and just watch things happen and not try to make a difference, not try to make a change. And I said, that is not how I'm going to live my life. I am going to go where the people need me and provide the level of service I believe they should have.
Mr. Ewing, during your remarks, you said you wanted to restore public trust in the mayor's office. How has Mayor Stothert lost the public trust?
What I would suggest is when you make promises on the campaign trail, you should keep them. And there are some promises that were made in 2013 about eliminating the restaurant tax, in 2017 about the streetcar being on the ballot for the citizens of Omaha. I will not make you promises that I don't keep.
Are you in favor or opposed to the streetcar?
I would have been in favor of a vote. Now, if I'm elected as mayor, I would have to see, Joe, quite honestly, if there's anything that could change that. And I don't believe you can stop the progress, but I believe you can look at, can you fund it differently when you're talking at least, from the last figure I saw, $440 million for the streetcar.
Do you think it can still be put to a vote?
I think it might be too late for that. I honestly don't have the specific answer for that right now, Joe, but you have to understand, when I win this election, I will be mayor starting in 2025. So that's another year that the streetcar will have gone down the road. So a vote might be an exercise in futility at this point.
So it sounds like you may have to live with something you don't like.
The part I don't like, quite honestly, is the fact that it didn't go to a vote. I can't say that I don't like the streetcar because I would have to see exactly what the plan is and how it's going to impact the community. I believe it's a great opportunity for economic development. I just believe it's too expensive, and we should not have done it without a vote of the people when it's that expensive.
And the mayor has said it's not going to a vote of the people because it's not a tax increase to pay for it.
Anytime you create additional debt, that money comes from somewhere. And in tax increment financing, it comes from all of the taxing entities that don't get that increased revenue. So in effect, those organizations still need their budget dollars, which means we're going to pay more, even if it's not a specific tax increase for the project.
Mr. Ewing, you mentioned that the city needs to look at TIF, and you would look at TIF tax increment financing. What do you think needs to be done about that?
Well, I think one thing we need to do is we need to slow down and make sure we're investing in the best projects. The second thing we need to do is take an honest look at how is all of this debt going to impact the next generation and the generation after that.
Mr. Ewing, correct me if I'm wrong, do you consider yourself pro-life?
Joe, here's my thought on all of those issues that people want to use to divide us. My personal opinion is not the important factor here. The important factor here is that I don't believe government should be involved in the most personal parts of our lives. And that is across the board for me.
Well, I'm not trying to put a label on you, but that sounds like what most people consider pro-choice.
Well, I'm not going to accept the label, Joe. Well, I think the city, as I said, faces a challenge with TIF. I think we face a challenge with looking at how we're going to be more inclusive. I think we face a challenge with retaining our young people in this community and having them have access to high-paying jobs so that they can raise a family here. So those are some of the issues I see that I believe we can do something about.
You have a challenge as a candidate. County government to the mayor's office has not been a typical path in recent years. I'm looking back today and I think maybe P.J. Morgan in the 1970s, who went from the county board,
Sure.
16 years or 12 years later, then he went to the mayor's office.
Sure.
Was the last time that's been done. And you start out way behind on money. So
Sure.
how are you going to overcome those challenges?
So the first thing I'll tell you is, being someone from the housing development at 30th and Parker and leading an organization that manages $1.5 to $1.7 billion is not a typical path either. Being someone who rises to the rank of deputy chief when I did, being only the third African American at the time to reach that level, is not a typical path. Being the first African American in the history of this state to win a countywide election is not a typical path. So I guess what I would say is that I'm not typical.
Brother Ewing, William King 95.7 The Boss. As we look at North Omaha, it ranks in the top 5 of poverty. Do you have a poverty reduction plan?
Well, I think one of the things we have an opportunity to do is we have an opportunity to put more jobs in North Omaha. We have an opportunity to put more jobs in South Omaha. We need to develop better working relationships with all of the public school systems as well to ensure that our young people are not only prepared, but then have access to those types of jobs as well. So I'm going to be very intentional about building those partnerships so that our young people have a sense of hope, which will allow them then to be able to reach their goals. We will be very intentional about making sure that we are inclusive and that we reduce poverty in this city.
Thank you. So you want to find an alternative to the TIF financing. Do you know what that looks like, or how would you get to a process to identify them?
I don't necessarily know what that looks like at this point, but what I think you do is you have conversations with the finance people, you have conversations with the state legislature, you have conversations with the business community, you have conversations with the philanthropic community. What I do is I build teams, and that's how you accomplish great things. That's what I've been doing my entire career, is building teams to get great things done. I'll give you an example of how progressive this Douglas County Treasurer's Office has been. In the last 9 months, we've made the citizens of this community over $24 million because of our investments. We've also made significant dollars because instead of just investing in CDs and other things of that nature, we've actually been able to create an investment committee and invest in other types of vehicles to increase the income for the taxpayers. So that's what I do, is I build teams.
Have you selected a location for your campaign office for people who want?
No, I have not. But we will be getting that information out to you and giving you ways to be able to volunteer and contribute to the campaign.
Mr. Young, I want to clarify something
Sure.
about the restaurant tax and your comments about it. Are you in favor of the restaurant tax?
I think we have to look at, can we reduce that restaurant tax, because it's making a lot of money for the city. But if you promise you're going to eliminate it, that's what should have happened. So I promise that I will look at it and see if we can reduce it.
During your remarks for re-election, the mayor mentioned that she's in effect ready to vote for Donald Trump for president. And I'm just curious if that's an issue for you at all in the city race.
The mayor has a right to vote for anyone she wants to. I will not be voting for Donald Trump.
Will you make an issue of that potentially, for support for Donald Trump?
I will not, no. Yes, sir.
I have a question, Sherman Wells. So lately, I've been doing a lot of advocacy work for low income and the people living in OHA towers. And the mayor basically commented and said, although she's seen the issues with the bed bugs and the water, that she won't step up to it because she hasn't gotten complaints to the city. So I wanted to know, would you be able to address, or as mayor, would you address those issues, even though some of the citizens are afraid to even report the issues because of, fear of losing their housing?
Before I answer, I'll ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Do they live in Omaha?
Yes, sir.
Then I will work to make sure that they have decent living conditions and work with OHA to help address the issue.